Hogwarts Legacy was first announced in September of 2020. Now, since then, a lot of questions have been put onto a huge pile, some of them answered, some of them not yet. Today I want to make that pile a little bit smaller for a lot of you out there. I will be going over 10 questions that have been answered so that you can either find some peace with those questions until the game releases or make space for even more questions. But before I start, I want to welcome you back to another Hogwarts Legacy video on my channel. If you like what you see and you want to stay on top of things with Hogwarts Legacy and a lot of other Wizarding World and gaming content, then please consider subscribing. We are so close to 200 subscribers and it would mean the world to me. Without further ado, let's start right into the questions nobody needs to ask anymore. So the very first question that I've been hearing a lot around the community and also outside of it is whether Hogwarts Legacy will have online or couch co-op. Now, here's the thing. The game isn't out yet, so until the game is in our hands, we cannot say for sure. But developers had said in multiple interviews that there will be neither online nor local multiplayer in the game. I know it is very unfortunate because I know how much all of us would have loved to explore Hogwarts and the rest of the world with someone by their side. I mean, sure, you have your in-game companions, but by someone, I mean a real person with feelings and, well, a brain. Others, however, don't mind this at all. They prefer playing alone, exploring alone, and so on. When it comes to me, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I love to play games alone, but would love to have the option to play with someone if I wanted to. How do you feel about this? Let me know in the comments. Another often asked question is whether we will be able to choose the house we want to be in or if we get sorted into a house. The answer to this question is yes, we will be able to choose the house we want to be in. I'm personally very excited about that because I want to play my first walkthrough as a student of my actual house. In my case, that is Hufflepuff. But I'm also planning on playing through the game multiple times just because I want to play as every house at least once. But to be honest, I'd also love if we would have to answer questions of that hat and he sorts us into a house. Would be pretty cool too. Let me know what you prefer. Then there has been the question of whether there will be microtransactions or in-game purchases in the game. I am happy to say that we won't find either in the game. I personally prefer games without them, but in the end, it is a personal preference. I'm just happy to hear that by buying the game, we will have everything that game has to offer without any additional cost. Of course, there's always the possibility for a DLC after release, but so far none has been confirmed or even talked about. And in the end, a DLC has not even close to an influence as a microtransaction would have on the base game. So I'm very glad that they decided to not put it in. Is or will J.K. Rowling be involved in the development of the game? I bet every single one of us has been asking themselves that question at least once. Here again I can answer that with a clear no. The game Hogwarts Legacy will revolve around the Wizarding World created by J.K. Rowling, but that is about it. Whether there's a reason behind that decision has not been answered, but I think it probably has something to do with her comments, which the developers and the game want to separate themselves from. But that is only a speculation of mine. I don't want to get too much into detail here, so if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them to my best ability. Moving on to the next question, which is whether or not we will meet Sir Nicholas and Professor Binns. After having done some research, I found out that Sir Nicholas, also known as Nearly Headless Nick, died on Halloween of 1492 and Professor Binns between 1860 and 1940. Due to the fact that the game is set in the late 1800s, both of their death days fit nearly perfectly into that time, with the only exception that Professor Binns could have died later than that. So, there was the possibility of meeting him either alive or dead. At that time, it was only a speculation though. However, in the latest state of play of Hogwarts Legacy, we received solid confirmation that both Sir Nicholas and Professor Binns will be in the game. That makes it especially exciting for a lot of fans that can now narrow down the period of Professor Binns' death day even further, and it confirms that we will in fact meet him as a ghost. Other than just meeting new and familiar faces, we have also gotten the confirmation that we will be able to make friends that later can become our companions/allies. So far, we didn't really know who exactly that will be, but the latest state of play showed us 3 characters more closely. Here we have Netsai Unai, who is a Gryffindor and loves adventures, Poppy Sweeting, a Hufflepuff that connects better with fantastic beasts than people, and then we have Sebastian Sella, a Slytherin who often gets in trouble. So far we have seen no character from Ravenclaw, though that doesn't mean that we won't meet one. We have also met Professor Fig, who will join us on our journey to save the wizarding world, and a house elf called Deke. I'm not sure whether those two can be considered friends or companions, though I would love to consider Deke as a friend. Now that we are already talking about house elves, let's get right to the question of whether they included the kitchen in the game. A lot of you that only watch the movies might not know this, but Hogwarts actually has a kitchen underneath the Great Hall where house elves prepare food and send it up to fill the Great Hall with lots of food. It's quite fascinating, which is why I'm even more excited to answer that question with a big yes. We were able to see it for the first time in the state of play, and it is exactly how you would imagine it. Due to it being in the basement, it is a little bit darker, but still full of life. I really hope we'll be able to interact with those house elves and maybe even receive side quests by them. Something that is also in the basement is the Hufflepuff common room. Which brings me to the next question. Do you have to be a Hufflepuff to enter it? Many people have been asking that question. Do you have to play the game 4 times as a student of each house to get into the common rooms? I have good news. No, you don't have to. There will be ways for a Ravenclaw to get into the Slytherin common room, for a Hufflepuff to get into the Gryffindor common room, and so on. There are no limits. I'm just very curious on how exactly that is gonna work. Will we have to brew a polyjuice potion to transform into a character of a different house to get into their common room, or will we be able to find a different way into them? See what I'm doing here? I just answered one question, which lets me create a lot of more questions. I hope this video is helping you to clear up your head to be able to come up with lots of other amazing questions. When it comes to the exploration, it is probably with one of the most important things in the game. Hogwarts Castle and the world around it seems huge. Something that I always love to ask when it comes to open world games is whether we have a day and night cycle. I loved it in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It makes you feel like you are in the world and you are actually living the life of that character. And I'm so ecstatic to tell all of you who didn't already know it that there will not only be a day and night cycle, but also a 4-season cycle. Yep, you heard right. I'm not sure whether that will depend on where you live, to the point where when it is winter in your place, it is winter in the wizarding world, or you will simply start your school year in September, which is around fall time, and then goes into winter, completely disconnected to the current season of the real world. I think it would make more sense than the first suspicion I have, but who knows? And the very last but definitely not least question I have is whether we will be able to become a dark wizard. I know a lot of fans wanted to know this, and it has been confirmed that yes, if you really feel drawn to joining the dark side, little Star Wars reference here, then you can become a dark wizard and change the outcome of the story completely. Even though I'm a Hufflepuff, and as it is known we created the least dark wizards, I'm so drawn to play through the game with the goal of becoming a dark wizard at least once. I mean, come on, I have to, don't I? I need to find out what happens. And just between you and I always felt tempted to speak an unforgivable curse, which has also been confirmed as something we can do. Just listen to this.
Be careful where you choose to explore, as it may lead you down a darker path.
But you didn't hear it from me. I don't know how it is with you, but after taking these 10 questions, which are actually 12, but I connected 4 questions to make 2 because 10 questions just sound better, out of the pile, I feel like I was left with double the amount of questions that I had before. But hey, at least these 10 questions have been answered. Again, if you have any questions that you think I haven't answered in depth and you would like to know more about, or even completely different questions that I haven't even talked about yet, let me know in the comments and I will try to answer everything to my best ability. If you want me to upload a video talking about a lot of questions that have not been answered yet, then give this video a like. Also, please consider subscribing to show your support, and don't forget to activate the notification bell so you can stay updated and get notified every time I upload. Thank you so much for watching. That was it from my side. Until then, bye.